Welcome to the Journey to Wellness podcast, sponsored by the Essential Wellness Society and Healing Wheel Holistic. I'm Melissa Stonehill Caiyem, and I will be your host. With over 40 years' experience in the health and fitness industry, I am ready to dive in to some of the most conflicting topics we have regards to health today. Let's go. Welcome to the Journey to Wellness podcast. I have a special guest today. This young man next to me, I've known him for a long time. I'm going to say 25 years?
Yep.
Yeah, 25 years. I'm proud to have my son on the show, not because he's my son, but because of the message that he brings and the work that he is doing. Currently, Zev Caiyem is the head cross-country coach and track coach for Discovery Canyon High School, and he is now on the roster to be an assistant coach at his alma mater at UCCS. So I want to congratulate you about that.
Thanks.
And with the Journey to Wellness podcast, one of the most important things in the ingredients is moving your body. And I thought it would be really important to hear from a young athlete, a local athlete, what he is doing, what he's done for himself, and what he's doing now to raise up other athletes. We could have mentioned Kokopelli as well. You've been coaching there for how long?
2.5 years.
Yeah, and Kokopelli is a, what is that called when it's not exactly in the school?
Kokopelli is a youth track club here in Colorado Springs, owned by Rainsberger, and it is a track club of kids ages anywhere from about 10 to 18 years old. So it's called a club team that encompasses kids from all around the city. That's
a variety of ages there. And the woman that you mentioned, isn't she held a record for a really long time?
Yeah, Lisa Rainsberger, decorated American distance runner in the marathon. Prior to, I believe it was 2015, was the last American woman to win the Boston Marathon, and won many local championship marathons throughout her career, and decorated American runner.
I think that's so exciting. Colorado Springs, you can't even go out there and run or anything without seeing a pro runner, an athlete. This is the Olympic city. So, we can't get past the fact that there's a high level of athleticism here. And what really impresses me is your own personal story of you're like the against all odds kind of mindset guy. And what I mean by that is some young runners in their careers will have an injury that happens to everybody. If you're really plugged into your sport, you're going to get an injury, whether it's basketball, soccer, baseball, football, whatever it is, wrestling. Running tends to have a little bit more because of the grind. But a lot of kids, when they're young, they just don't have the wherewithal and the tools to deal with trying to reinvent themselves during a period of injury. So I want you to talk about that. I want you to talk about the mindset and how you move forward and keep on keeping on.
Sure. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. Growing up in Southern California is where I started running, and my mom, who's sitting next to me, was the first person that actually got me into fitness, which is very apropos to everything she's doing now. But basically, she took me to the gym when I was 12 years old, showed me the ropes on how to do some things to stay fit and stay healthy. And then ultimately, I kind of stumbled into the running scene through PE in middle school. A couple people would be like, hey, you should try this. And then started running in high school. Without going into too much detail, I had 2 experiences in high school with a great coach and a really bad coach. And these were at 2 different high schools. I transferred after my sophomore year of high school. Basically, the really bad coach showed me everything of what not to do when it comes to teaching young athletes, anybody about anything. Doesn't have to be running specific, but just how to treat people. And so I learned from that negative experience how to turn it into a positive, and that today is what I use to help coach younger athletes. And a lot of the mindset that I have today has come from that experience back in about 2012.
Yeah, that's like that famous expression, I don't know why they say turning lemons into lemonade, because I actually like raw lemons.
Yeah.
And I think they're great. But it is an expression, but taking something sour and making it sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And you did that on your own, though. You did that with something inside of you, decided to keep it going. Like, even when you had to sit out from running because you were injured, and the particular coach you had in that second high school was just beating the athletes down to the ground. And I remember an Olympian had said to you, Zev, if you don't sit it out, this guy's going to just damage your body and you're never going to make it to college running. And that's your senior year. I mean, that's a hard decision to make, but you made that choice. You made that choice to have a future vision. Well, that's not easy for teenagers.
Yeah. You said it perfectly. So one of the biggest things, not in running specifically, but in terms of how I relate to the world, instant gratification is huge amongst all people, and it's very hard to have a long-term vision to see the outcome before you even start something. So yeah, you have to kind of have that, patience mindset, which is a very hard skill to have for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But in daily life, there's different ways you can practice patience, whether it be driving, letting someone in on a lane. And that's a simple task, but it can help practice that mindset.
So let's talk about athletes today, young athletes today. You're coaching such a variety of ages, from middle school, I think you said the youngest was 10?
About 10 years old or so.
Up to Division II college. I mean, wow, you got the gamut there. So at every age, you're still going to be having the conversation with that athlete that's, is used to making a good time, that didn't make the time that they wanted. Maybe things didn't line up that day. Maybe they're having conflict with their other course teachers taking their athleticism seriously. Maybe it's just a bad day to run. Maybe they get injured. So these conversations that you have from these ages, tell me a little bit about what your message is.
Sure. So obviously when you're dealing with a wide range of kids, you have, the age group it's hard to relate to each one in the same way, because everyone's got a different level of emotional, mental maturity. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I'm in a good position simply because I'm younger. I'm 25 years old, and so I was in some of these high schooler shoes not too long ago, so I remember kind of how I was at that age. And so I try to relate to them by giving them messages that I wish I had when I was that age. And with that, it comes a lot of hard conversations at times, but to let them know that I always have their best interest at heart. So if they're having a tough day, I let them know that that's life. You're going to have tough days. You're also going to have really awesome ones too, and you have to accept both of them because they're both inevitable. Obviously, everybody wants to have a great day every day, but that's just not the nature of the world. So if you can better prepare yourself mentally and physically to have those days where you're struggling, things kind of suck, you're questioning why you're doing things, whether it's your job or you're in school or whatever it is. Just let them know that embrace the journey for what it is, and that it's a process, and that if they have faith in that ultimately things will turn out for the best.
I like that. Embrace the journey. I think embrace the journey, that can go for anybody and anything. And we are so outcome connected. Mm-hmm. And so many of us just forget to enjoy the ride and grow from each setback. And there's a lot of setbacks in sports. And one of the things I know just experiencing as raising athletes is, I took your athleticism seriously. I took your brother's athleticism, your sister's. And so I was always, looking at the sport, looking at what it is they're doing, the grind on the body, what being a nutritionist made a little easier for me because I could say, okay, this is what they need to eat, and this is recovery, and I would teach them recovery nutrition and, emphasize sleep. So that's fortunate. Now, experiencing other parents, when I would talk just to other parents that were running with the kids that were running with you, that's not across the board. And now, as a high school, college is a whole other game. You're dealing with adults, but in a high school situation or middle school situation, how do you connect the parents to really be supportive for what their kids are doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've definitely dealt with some difficult parents at times, and that's never fun, but it is what it is. Obviously, like when I was getting into coaching, just for the record, I've been coaching high school for about 3.5, 4 years. And a lot of times as a younger coach, I would have a little bit of, lack of confidence at times with talking to an older group, just simply like, hey, your kids are in my hands, like try and trust me. And that's hard to do when you're old enough to be that person's kid also. So what I do, is just kind of just educate them on where I come from and let them know my message to their kids is for their best interest. And all I want to do is create a great environment for these kids to feel empowered, feel confident, to go into life feeling like they can, take on any task. And more often than not, when a parent hears that, they're usually pretty, they receive the message pretty well. And
nice.
They kind of let me take the lead.
That's really good. Yeah. That's a true testimonial when a parent lets you take the lead. You just had some great accolades with your team. Let's talk about that. Let's shout out some local teams here. Talk about what Colorado did, how they showed up in nationals, and how you have been coaching these kids to just make exceptional records for their school.
Yeah, so it's been really fun, really gratifying experience. One thing I always preach to the high schoolers and to myself too is that, athletic talent is temporary. So not to get too high on yourself when things go well, because it's never going to stick around forever, but to definitely embrace those highs. But yeah, so this last fall, our girls team made state and got 14th, which is pretty cool. Pretty good placement for them as a group. During this track season, our school finished 4th at the state track meet. Pretty awesome, tying.
So 4th at the state. So is that only Colorado schools running?
Yep. So basically, to sum it up real fast, Colorado's broken down into different regions. So if you have a small school, you're in a lower division, and there's 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A. 5A being the biggest. Discovery Canyon is a 4A school. Mm-hmm. So out of all the 4A schools in Colorado, we were the 4th fastest team.
Wow. And when was the last time Discovery Canyon made the podium like that?
I believe they've only ever made the podium 3 times in its school history, which is dating back to, I want to say, 2008. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Well, honestly, I think good coaching is where it's at. You can have really good talent, but if you don't have good coaching, you don't get the cohesiveness, and the mindset that you really implement with these kids. And I know that you said you had some stellar performances and some records.
Yeah, so we had the girls 4x400 set a school record this year. They broke their own school record twice. Pretty cool. What's really cool about that group in particular is it's comprised of a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. So you get the best of each grade. So that's really cool. Also shows a lot of promise for the years to come.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's funny because even those athletes, in the moment, I had to tell them what they just did, and they didn't quite understand how great that really was. And that's what's really fun, because there's an innocence to their accomplishment, because they're just trying their very best, and at the end of the day, it's creating something that's pretty incredible. So it's almost like going in with an open mind of not necessarily not having expectations, but not putting a lot of weight on your shoulders, and then just give it all you have, and then at the end of the day, you can have something pretty awesome happen.
That is so nice. Now, another topic I really like to touch upon, this is more, for parents. One of the reasons that I chose to raise you guys, as athletes, is that in my experience, that kids that were pursuing athletic goals or dance goals or anything that required them putting their body into it, there was just a lower incidence of depression, lower incidence of drug use or partying, drinking. Because if you're really serious about what you're doing and you're wanting to make it as a college runner or something like that, you're not going to do things that are going to slow you down. So this was something I made up in my head that, like, oh, I was going to do this. And that's why, it's like, oh, you can shave? Come, you're going to the gym. You can lift weights now. Or, presenting opportunities for sports. I think I signed you up for everything. But I really, really feel that chemically, when kids are involved in a sport, that they have better brain chemicals, dopamine, endorphins, and all the things to create a bit more happiness. What do you feel about athleticism, sports in general, and kids, keeping them out of trouble?
Yeah, definitely great points. So, there's a lot of athletes that go out for sports in high school, middle school levels. Just kind of calling it how it is. Not every kid has the genetic gifts to be a great athlete. That's just how the world works. Mm-hmm. But everyone has the opportunity to participate, and that's really cool because for 2 hours a day after school, you can have this outlet where it allows you to hang out with your friends in a setting that's maybe not as restrictive as like the school building or the classroom setting. Mm-hmm. And allows you to kind of be yourself a little bit more. And one thing I do as a coach is I don't know how their day at school is going because I don't work in the school during the day. I don't know what their life's like at home. So when they come to practice, my goal is to make them have the most fun they can possibly have. So with that, I try to be very, not like, so I don't know how to say it, like a relaxed coaching model. Whereas like I give them the task that's at hand, but I'm not too strict about things. I want it to be very free and relaxed environment so they feel calm and mm-hmm. they can speak up for themselves or ask a question and not feel afraid because I want them to feel empowered to make decisions.
That's great. That's a great way to put it.
And I'm still challenging for me to figure that out, but that's part of it.
But that's such a life lesson. So literally you can learn these important life lessons on the field, on a cross-country course. You're empowering them to make the decision. Here's another decision. Let's say you're going out for a long run and the kid doesn't want to run anymore. He's tired, but he sees his peers are running and now he's got to kind of challenge himself or herself. He's got this little mental ping pong that takes place. I know you've had it yourself.
Yeah. One thing I love about running and how I relate to it, with my life experiences, compartmentalizing situations. So if you have a large task, whether that could be, anything in life, I'll just use the example of a 13-mile race. If you look at it as a 13-mile race, it seems really large, and you're like, how am I supposed to tackle all this? Mm-hmm. But if you break it down to segments, like, all right, just 2 miles here, 2 miles here, another mile there. If you think about it as in small numbers, it doesn't seem as strenuous. And when you kind of break it down like that in your brain, it's easier to focus on one task at a time. So if you give yourself the assignment of just going to focus for these next 10 minutes, and then I'll figure out the rest later on, I find that it's very helpful.
And that goes back to what you were saying before about more being in the moment.
Yeah. This is not really a tangent per se, but Ryan Hall is a decorated American runner, has mm-hmm. the American record in the half and full marathon. He wrote a book called Run the Mile You're In, and he's the world American record holder in the marathon. So the guy's pretty good.
Right.
So he's racing 26 miles, so he knows a thing or two about a mile.
Yeah.
But my point is that he wrote this book, Run the Mile You're In, which is a great lesson for life. It's just like be here now, focus on what's currently in front of you, not what's 5 miles ahead down the road, because you'll come across that when that time comes, and don't worry about it now because it's not right here right now.
I have found just through stories that I've read such kindness in the running community, with the support that these Olympians that happen to be local are giving to people, the Paralympians and everything. There's like this camaraderie that exists, and I know you've traveled from town to town and found people to run with and pro runners. Why do you think that exists more in running than other sports?
We obviously come from a running background. I haven't explored the other sports, and maybe they have similar connections out there. But yeah, from the running perspective, and some people, maybe it's just a way of relating to each other. It's like this person's been through the same kind of perhaps trials that I've been through. Or the people are just genuine, right? So they're just like, yeah, come sleep on my couch.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
I don't know who you are, but you seem like a nice person. And that's enough for some people. And if you're truly genuine, then yeah, like
they have this
those
little
situations happen.
subculture of couch surfing in the running community where if you're living in altitude, but you want to go run in Long Beach because you want to do this race or that race, and you can find a runner and then you connect with them, and that's what he was saying. Yeah, come on, sleep on my couch. So it's just been, I find that there's a different vibe with runners, and I've been around a lot of athletes my whole life. And I don't know if it's because you guys just leave it all on the pavement and you're so done that the rest that's left over is just relaxed and chilled. But I do find, I just do find a different vibe, like a more relaxed, meditative vibe.
Yeah, I think there's definitely people out there that definitely have that vibe. I think a lot of it does come from maybe your surroundings and how you were raised and kind of the predisposition you were given as a younger person in your outlook on life. I'll say that both you, as my mom, and my dad have a very relaxed demeanor and allowed me to kind of be more free as a child and not have these strict regulations in place to do certain things or be a certain way, which has allowed me kind of to blossom that into a way where now I'm treating people in the same way where I don't want them to feel constricted by any means. So I want them to kind of have a voice of their own to decide their own future, because who am I to decide someone else's fate in life or make decisions for them?
Right.
Kind
You're a
of
good
mentality.
listener. Well, you know, we can't really talk about this whole topic without me diving into some nutrition, because with all athleticism, the body is a temple. And it doesn't matter to me if it's yoga, if it's hiking, if it's football, if it's boxing, running, dancing, any of the sports, anything that you are focused on daily, something that you're trying to improve upon, and you're using your body and your mind in order to make those improvements, what you feed your body matters. And there's so much science out there, and there's so many difference of opinions. What works for one person doesn't work for the other person. And if someone always wants to say they're right and this one's wrong, I don't buy that. I think that it depends who you are, what you're doing, where you're at. For you, you chose to be a vegan in high school. You chose to be a plant-based athlete. And then I know that you followed a lot of other plant-based athletes. Rich Roll was a great one, and other people. And to this day, you've held strong to that. So talk just a little bit about what it's like being a plant-based athlete and how you see your own personal resilience, recovery, due to the type of way you eat.
Yeah, obviously nutrition can be a touchy subject with certain individuals, because eating is very personal, right? Everyone has a certain emotion attached to eating, which is fine. That's just how we are. But yeah, I mean, being plant-based, some people would find that challenging, because everyone, at least I interact with, will ask the first question, like, you don't eat meat? Where do you get protein from, And obviously, valid questions, because it's coming from a place of, I don't know where I would get protein if I didn't eat meat, so where could you possibly get it from? Because it's just a lack of knowledge, which isn't an insult, it's just calling it is what it is. But yeah, so being a plant-based athlete can definitely be challenging at times when you're in certain settings, because in a way your diet is limited. Backing up real fast, part of the reason I became plant-based was I was born with an egg allergy, pretty severe, so I've been allergic to eggs my entire life. And so growing up, I would have a lot of alternative foods already. So whether that be a vegan cupcake or something like that. Or my mom would bake something that was vegan just because it was easier once you eliminate the eggs to just make the entire thing vegan. So I was already accustomed to having, a diet that was somewhat different, and I adjusted to that at a young age. And yeah, so, if you have a diet high in plants, based on most science research, you're most likely going to have less inflammation in your body. Less inflammation usually leads to less injury rate, usually leads to faster recovery. And nothing straight and, perfect, but you got to really kind of add things together and be intentional about what you're doing when you're picking certain foods. But I'm just like everyone else too. I like my sweets. I like my cookies. I like my cakes, I like burgers, but just make it vegan, and we're having a good time.
Yeah, I think that when you hit on the head with recovery and inflammation, because you have more alkaline going into the body, and all of the things that alkalinize your body and reduce inflammation. I also remember, being at a college finish line on a race is not a pretty picture, let me tell you. There's a lot of spitting going on, and some people are losing their stomachs. But one thing I always noticed, that it wasn't you. And I always thought, wow, I bet Zev's just recovering so well because of the way he fuels his body. He's not feeling that acid in the gut. I know you get it sometimes when you're going on your long runs, but that's just, you can't help that oxidative stress. But compared to what I saw, I knew you were on the right path because your recovery was just stellar. And I think that's really important. I also think that, you were raised by a nutritionist. So if somebody wants to go vegan but doesn't know how to do it, they may do it completely wrong, not get the right macros, not get the right nutrients. So I would never recommend anybody taking those steps without having consulted a nutritionist that actually knows what they're doing. The last thing I wanted to touch upon, if you would indulge us, I want to talk about Elmwood Athletic Team.
Sure. Before I dive into that, last thing I'll say about the nutrition. You mentioned not people going into a plant-based vegan lifestyle not knowing quite how to do it, and maybe they don't enjoy it. Because I had you cooking in the kitchen, I had flavorful foods.
Yeah.
So, little shout out to my mom here. If you want good plant-based cooking, hit up my mom, because she will change your mind on what it means to eat tofu.
Yeah, well.
You think it's bland, she will change your mind
It's
on
not
it.
bland. Thank you, Zev.
But yeah, Elmwood Athletics. So, doing a little brand shout out right here. But yeah, basically, Elmwood Athletics is a post-collegiate training group of endurance athletes that came together as a side effect of wanting to continue to train post-college, not necessarily knowing kind of where to go with that, and wanting to have that group team environment still. A lot of guys and girls who graduate college might have aspirations to run at a professional level, but that area is very cutthroat, and it's very, if you don't run this exact time, you aren't going to be on this team, you're not going to get a contract. So, sometimes when that's the case, you just have to create it for yourself. So one of my good friends, Brian Marshall, he created Elmwood Athletics back in 2018. He lived on a street called Elmwood Street. He entered a race after college, didn't know what to put his team name under, so he wrote Elmwood Athletics. And that was the birth of it. And at that point, it was so in its infancy stage that no one could have seen where it would possibly go. Fast forward to now, 2022, we have over 12 people on this roster, male and female athletes, anywhere from cyclists, triathletes, runners, we try and travel around the country and race. We do cycling races, we do running races. Most notably, biggest cycling race that we'll partake in is the Pikes Peak Cycling Hill Climb in the summer in August. Pretty crazy race.
And you guys came in first place with the men, first place with the women, and you were in the top 10 as well.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool race. If you like to suffer, you will have fun. If you don't like suffering, then Good luck.
Some serious suffering going on there at 13,000 feet. That last 1,000, I know you said it was really hard.
Elmwood Athletics is honestly a training group that's open to anybody who wants to better themselves in their world of endurance sports, no matter kind of what level you're at, as long as you're committed to training, committed to the lifestyle. That is what Elmwood Athletics is about.
And why did you choose to go not-for-profit?
So yeah, we are a 501c3 not-for-profit. So basically, yeah, if your company or your industry wants to kind of sponsor our group or donate any kind of funds, that is a tax write-off for that entity. And basically those funds will go into supporting Elmwood Athletics and the local community, entering races, traveling around the country to just promote health and wellness in the endurance world.
Right, and then you put their logos on your jersey?
Yep, yeah. So we'll do free branding in a way.
That is so cool because with you guys, you're actually, my logo's on there and they're winning. So it's not like it's invisible. And I think it's super significant to support athleticism, to help young men and women go towards their dreams. Some of them have an Olympic dream and really just need the support to continue training because this is the kind of thing that takes a lot out of you. How many miles a week do you run?
Yeah, when I'm full throttle, I'll usually run about 75 to 80 miles a week.
Okay, and cycling?
Cycling, when I do cycle, I'll try and go for, somewhere in the range of 10 hours a week. So whether that's 200 miles or so.
Right, that plus work. I mean, it takes a lot.
But it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun or you wouldn't be doing it. Is there anything else you'd like to say? You have really followed some great thinkers and you've come up with your Zevisms. I call them your Zevisms. Words of wisdom, things that you like to say. Why don't you leave us with a quote?
Sure. I've got a lot in the brain, but some good ones.
Could be more than one.
Yeah. A quote I recently looked at that I found pretty cool and very apropos to like the things I was doing was find joy in what you're doing and find people you can be joyful with. And if you can do that, then you'll have a pretty good time. Just surround yourself with good people and do the things you love. And if you do that, then I think you'll live a pretty good life.
Well, those are pearls of wisdom. How can people find you if they want, they'd like their kids to get started in running, maybe they don't feel confident to go out for the team? I know you do private one-on-one coaching. How could people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so probably by email would be best. Zev, my name, ZEV, runs @gmail.com. So zevruns @gmail. That's probably the best way to do it. Also, feel free to reach out if you want on Instagram, which is the Zev Runs. Pretty simple. If you find my name and then put runs after it, you'll pretty much
We'll put that
find me.
all in the podcast notes as well. But I encourage listeners, if you want to, whether you're an adult and you want to be a marathoner, half marathoner, need tweaking on your gait, or anywhere from middle school, high school, college, this is your coach. This is the guy. This is the coach. You're watching him now, and you're going to be hearing this name for a very long time. And I know you have your own Olympic dream. I hope that you become our Olympic marathoner. I will do everything I can to support that because I know that's a dream for you. And I want to thank you so much for giving us your time today and giving these people your time today. I am podcasting today from the Center for Essential Wellness in Colorado Springs. And that is centerforessentialwellness.com, essentialwellnesssociety.com as well. And today's podcast is sponsored by Healing Wheel Holistic, www.healingwheelholistic.com, and Elmwood, why can't I say just Elmwood? Elmwood Athletic Team. Thank you so much.